Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Dr. Crane, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on this Tuesday morning. We are broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. We got Nick Frazier back for a Tony Tuesday. Took a week off. Dr. Crane had other responsibilities going on, but we're glad to have you back.
Glad to be back. Tuesdays are always fun, and we got a lot to talk about today, Jay.
We do. It's a busy day. I mean, of course, the national championship game last night. We'll start with that. The Preds falling in a shootout. As Max Hers told us yesterday on the show, the LA Kings only play overtime games, and that held true last night. And the Titans opened their offseason program today, along with 9 other teams with new head coaches. The offseason program begins today. Players are back in the building. So we'll talk a little Titans later in the show as well. But first, the national championship game last night in Indianapolis. Michigan with a 69-63 win over UConn. The Wolverines claim their second national championship. It was a really interesting game. I mean, not a whole lot of drama, but I think you saw the turning point in that game. We were talking about this before we came on the air. UConn was actually playing really well early on. They were limiting the size of Johnson and Mara and Lendeborg down low early on with the way they were defending it, and they had the lead. The hook and hold, I felt, was the turning point in that game. I think it was 25-23 UConn at that point. And right after that, Michigan went on a 10-2 run and kind of just held UConn at arm's length for the rest of the game. I thought that was a really big moment, just the shift in momentum that we saw between those two teams.
Yeah, and in the first half, I thought UConn had Michigan's number for the most part. It's just the fact of the matter is you didn't, capitalize on those points down low. I mean, again, that's kind of the big downfall to any game is when you start missing shots, but especially when you have the gimme points in the paint. That's where I think UConn lost its luster.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan really tried to dominate down low early. You could see that was their plan. They knew they were going to get mismatches if they could get Caravan switched on to one of their big guys, Mara or Johnson. And early on, it wasn't working. And UConn was making everything difficult for Michigan. The Wolverines didn't hit a 3 in the first half, but they started to get things going. I thought really the X factor was Elliot Cadeau last night. When they couldn't get those easy looks for their bigs, Cadeau was doing a nice job of penetrating down low and either finding somebody to pass it to or creating his own shot. I thought he had a really nice game.
Yeah, and another thing that bothered me about last night's game on the UConn perspective, what's up with the 3-man weave stuff going on outside the perimeter of the shooting area? Like, that to me bothers me. Where's the creativity? Where is the let's find the backdoor, pass down low? Where is any of that? I want that basketball. That would have won UConn the national championship last night.
It was not a great game in terms of shot making. Like, it was a little bit of a slog back and forth. And we were going through our predictions at the end of the show yesterday. And at first I said 90-83 Michigan. And in my head, I was like, you know what? This is a national championship game. They're not going to score that many points. And it was definitely a low scoring game. UConn made a little bit of a run at it there at the end. They started to get some shots to fall. Mullins hit a couple of threes late, but it really, Michigan was just too much. They made enough plays down the stretch. Missed a couple of free throws when it was 67-63, but UConn couldn't take advantage. Michigan cuts down the nets, and really impressive stuff from Dusty May. I mean, he took FAU to the Final Four a few years ago, able to take that step forward and go to Michigan. And just 2 years in, with a team full of transfers, he goes and wins the national title.
And it goes to show you that the NIL is, once again, I would not say victorious, but again, it helps out the conversation after last night. Because again, you talk about a guy in Dusty May, did a lot with FAU. Now he has the resources at Michigan to really be a successful coach. Sure enough, there you go.
Yeah, and I thought Ian Eagle put it well when he said, Michigan, they are the first team to win a national championship with a starting lineup of 5 transfers, but they won't be the last. And I think that's true. It's the way things are trending. The transfer portal is already open. And I don't know if you saw, there was a Instagram story or something of one of the Michigan assistant coaches posted, Natty 1, transfer portal open, and he was already working in the locker room on next year's roster. It's just the way it works. It's like, hey, national championship's over. 2 weeks of portal starts right now.
It kind of reminds me of that story when I think it was Alabama when they won the BCS national championship against Texas. And they were talking about,
was that Colt McCoy.
Yeah, 2012, I
Yeah.
believe. I remember reading something about Alabama's head coach, Nick Saban. He was on the plane and he was already recruiting after the national title game. It just reminds me of the same situation.
There is no offseason in college sports anymore. It's either you're playing or it's portal season. And it is portal season now as Michigan wins the national title. Parker is our big college basketball guy here. He is always locked in. I want to get your thoughts on the game last night, Parker.
I think it was interesting because you heard Dan Hurley say in his post or his halftime interview that they played exactly how they needed to play if they're going to beat Michigan. They really muddied it up. They did not make a single three. I think they had two the entire game, and yet they still won just because they dominated the paint that much. I thought the shot by Caravan at the end of the game when they were down by 4,
Right.
the shot to take a three there, I didn't like the shot. I didn't think it was a good shot. But what really won the game for Michigan was the free throws and the ability to get to the free throw line. They made 20 straight free throws, and I think 23 of 26. That sounds about right. So I thought that's really what won the game. But you brought up the best point, Elliot Cadeau. He was the most valuable player of the Final Four. He doesn't always score the most. He's not going to be as flashy as like Yaxel Lindenberg, but he always makes the right play. And for somebody that was so criticized at North Carolina for turning the ball over, Dusty May fixed him. And he wasn't the most recruited guy to high school, but he always makes the right play. And I thought he played awesome last night.
That's a very good point. Michigan, when they needed somebody to control the pace, they found Cadeau, and he did a great job. He had a couple of huge and ones in that game where, UConn isn't the biggest team, but they've got size down there, and Cadeau just, unfazed, goes among the trees and was able to make some big plays for that team. You mentioned Yaxel Lindenberg. I thought that was one of the best halftime interviews ever. That's the question to ask when there's a star player who is not 100%. Like, how are you feeling? And usually, we're battling through. I'm feeling fine. Just not playing my game. It's like, I actually feel terrible. I feel very weak. And I was like, man, that's awesome. Way to keep it real, Yaxel. In the biggest game of your life, just like, yeah, I'm not feeling good at all, but we're figuring it out there.
But you know what? The average Joe that's watching the game's thinking, I got to watch the second half now. That's what kept me glued to the screen after hearing that.
I just love it. He kept it real. Like, again, it's coach speak or oh, we're not worried about that. I'm just going out there and giving it my all. No, I actually feel awful. I feel terrible. And he didn't have his best game, but I think that shows you how dominant of a team Michigan was, that their best player, the Big Ten Player of the Year, clearly was not fully healthy, wasn't really playing all that well, even when he was getting the looks that he wanted, and they still were able to win a national championship. Like that shows you that was the best team in college basketball all year and a deserving national champion.
Do you think it's a one-off?
I don't know. I think that's what makes the transfer portal era so interesting is Michigan wasn't a team that anybody looked at preseason and said that's a national championship contender, but they found the pieces that fit together the right way, and they ended up being the best team in basketball. They could do it again, right? Like if they go recreate, I'm sure they're getting some of the pieces back, but you're going to have to go to the portal again. Sure. But you just never know. There could be another team out there that is able to find the right puzzle pieces that fit out of the transfer portal. That's what makes it interesting, is you're not going to see dynasties anymore. It's going to be more one-offs of you build the right team in the right year to go win a national championship.
Yeah, pick and choosing those battles. I thought it was interesting too, like you just mentioned about Iron Eagle saying it's not the first national championship team that is going to have 5 transfers to start. So yeah, you might be right there. This might not be a one-off, or it might be. It depends on how you look at it.
Yeah, I mean the portal's already open, and the women's portal has been open for a little bit longer now. It opened after the national championship game on Sunday, and it is insane, the players that are going in there. And there's going to be a lot of money spent there. I can only imagine what's going to happen on the men's side as it's officially open. Guys are going in. Tennessee has lost a decent amount of contributors. Jalen Carey into the portal yesterday as well, which, Parker, I know we talked about after seeing JP Estrella enter the portal yesterday. Losing Jalen Carey, too, you're starting to lose more and more front court depth. you would hope that Rick Barnes has a plan there of how he's going to replace that.
I'm not as upset about the Jalen Carey as I am JP Estrella. I thought JP Estrella was much more valuable this year. And to be honest, I'm not just saying this because Jalen Carey's gone, but it always kind of rubbed me the wrong way how he was, at Vanderbilt. Then he transfers to Tennessee, a rival school. He was at 3 schools in 3 years. And now he's going to be on his 4th school in 4 years.
Yeah.
That stuff that really bothers me. But what I do know is the athletic department is giving Rick Barnes more resources this year than he's ever had before. And I think that's why we're seeing some of these guys that we didn't expect enter the portal, because Rick Barnes is going all in to try to finally get to that Final Four.
Yep. And On3 reported about a week ago that Tennessee and Vanderbilt are expected to spend big on their rosters in the transfer portal this year. So we can get into that a little bit coming up next, and more of your reaction to the national championship as Michigan is able to beat UConn 69-63 up in Indianapolis and cut down the nets. Thoughts on one shining moment? I thought it was good. A lot of the moments that I expected to be in there were. We did get to see the Tyler Tanner shot going halfway down about midway through.
Just imagine if that thing drops, what we're talking about today.
I mean, who knows how much further Vanderbilt goes, but you wouldn't have been playing Florida. You would have been playing Iowa in the next round, who they did beat Nebraska, but that's a much easier matchup on paper. And then Illinois would have been your matchup in the Elite Eight if all things stayed the same. Yeah, who knows how far Vandy would have gone, but obviously that would have been one of the great moments in college basketball history if Tyler Tanner's shot went. And Tyler Tanner is a big domino for that Vanderbilt team as they try and rebuild their roster for next season. Also, we'll get into the Preds this hour. They do get a point last night in LA, but fall in a shootout 3-2 to the Kings. Back in action tonight. Quick turnaround in Anaheim, taking on the Ducks. Another late night puck drop tonight. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We are off and running on this Tuesday morning. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. 1025 The Game has teamed up with Pella Windows and the Nashville Humane Association for a puppy pet adoption this Friday at Pella, 256 East Main Street in Hendersonville from 4 to 6 p.m. For more details, visit thegamenashville.com/events. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. The one shining moment belonged to Michigan last night. The Wolverines win the national title over UConn. 69-63 was the final. And as fast as the season ends, the offseason begins. Transfer portal is open, and you're seeing a lot of big names enter. Tennessee and Vanderbilt, as we said, leading into the break, the rumors are they are ready to spend big in this portal. $10 million or more on their roster. And some of that may come from player retention, right? Like, if Tyler Tanner doesn't go into the draft, even if he doesn't want to leave Vanderbilt, he's going to leverage that he could leave Vanderbilt, and he's going to command a decent amount of that money. And, Chandler Bing for Vanderbilt going to be somebody that they want to hold on to. Tennessee, the same thing. They've got guys that they need to look at, and they've lost a few, but you want to retain some. But a lot of it's going to come in the portal when you're looking at the roster building. And I really think Rick Barnes and Mark Byington realized that, hey, we were on the doorstep this year. We were 4 or 5 or 5 or 6 seeds, but with one, we saw with Michigan, one good portal class puts you in a national championship conversation. And I think both teams are going to be ready to spend over the next month.
Yeah, it also could, resort into a domino effect to some degree in a negative light, because say teams that invest a lot into the NIL portal, along with, Tennessee and Vanderbilt, and it doesn't pan out for them the following season, you're going to have boosters saying, I'm good. I've already given my money. I don't want to do that again. That was a bad experiment. And you're going to have teams that actually, flourish in that product. And if they do flourish in that product, they're going to continue capitalizing on those opportunities. So hopefully it works out well for Tennessee and Vanderbilt. Looking at, you mentioned Tyler Tanner. I don't see a guy in Tyler Tanner, if he does come back, going somewhere else.
Yeah.
He's a BA kid, Brentwood Academy. I don't see him leaving Nashville. I just don't.
Well, and he was loyal to Vanderbilt even after the coaching change.
Yeah.
Stackhouse leaves. That's who he committed to, was Jerry Stackhouse. And he stuck around, played for Mark Byington. I agree. I don't see him leaving. If he leaves, I think it's for the NBA. And maybe there's, everything is about money these days, right? He's going to want to get the best offer. But I think it's going to be like Diego Pavia the last couple of years. Pavia has said that he could have left and gotten more money elsewhere, but he wanted to stay at Vanderbilt, and he got a fair offer for it. Not that I think Vanderbilt can probably match whatever offer he's going to get somewhere else, but I think Tyler Tanner wants to stay. I don't see him being somebody who's going to hop from school to school. Like we just talked about with Jalen Carey, who is going to be one of those 4 schools in 4 years kind of guys. There's a lot of interesting names in the transfer portal. The one I mentioned last week that I think would be a really good fit for either Vanderbilt or Tennessee is Santos Cyril, the 6'11" center from Georgia, who is just a freak athlete, elite rim defender. I think both teams could use that guy, but obviously I think he's going to be sought after by a lot of schools, but I wouldn't be surprised if Vandy and Tennessee are involved in the bidding for Santos Cyril.
Yeah, just comparing both of those programs, Tennessee and Vanderbilt, if that is the case for Vandy or Tennessee to bring in a guy like that, I would lean more Vanderbilt just because of, I don't know, when it comes to those roster constructions, I see Vanderbilt being a chemistry-driven team. Whereas for Tennessee, I'm not saying they're chemistry-driven per se. It's just more of getting the best quality players and putting them together on a team. Like, again, we talked about Jalen Carey, JP Estrella, those guys, not being in the equation anymore. To me, it just seems like they were grabbing the best available and just seeing what you could do on the court.
It's interesting with Tennessee because when they've been good, it's been kind of building from within. Like, you had 4-year guys like Zakai Ziegler was your leader at point guard, and Jemai Mashak was there for a long time. And then you were able to just kind of throw in a couple of big name transfers that could be the missing piece. Dalton Connect is the one that I'm thinking of off the top of my head. With Vanderbilt, it's been, we are going to completely scrap our roster from year to year, basically, except for a couple of guys. Like last year, they held on to Tyler Tanner, Tyler Nickel, Devin McLaughlin, brought in 9 more transfers. This year, it's kind of going to be the same. If you keep Tyler Tanner, he sticks around. You've got Chandler Bing, Jaden Leverett, a freshman, played some okay minutes for this team. And then you're going to scrap everybody else, who most of them were seniors, and bring in another class of transfers. So I'm interested to see how these two teams go about it, because with Tennessee, you don't really see a ton of the like homegrown guys still there that they can build around. I think they are going to be have to be more transfer driven this year.
And it also comes for brand exposure. That's kind of how we see it with a lot of programs across the nation is that if you have a giant brand exposure, you're going to get those big name players that are not really your homegrown talents. As for Rick Barnes, he's built a giant resume that goes all the way back to Kevin Durant at Texas. And I think that kind of carries a little cachet for him to where he can grab some of these bigger name players and bring them into Tennessee.
Right. I mean, for Rick Barnes, you can always go back no matter how far back it is. I had Kevin Durant. Like that, I mean, that's a name that everybody, like players now, whether you're in the transfer portal and you're 23 years old or you're an incoming freshman and you're 18, you want to play like Kevin Durant. You want to play for the coach who developed Kevin Durant. I mean, he didn't need a ton of developing. He was going to be a top 5 pick in the NBA draft no matter what, but that's a name that holds water. I mean, there's no coach who can say I coached LeBron James in college. He didn't go. So that's the next best thing is KD. And I'm sure Rick Barnes uses that. You know, Nate Ament got some comparisons to KD.
Yeah. And one more factor into all this is when you said that name holds water. For me, the only way that water ends up drying out or evaporating is if Vanderbilt gets one up on them. And that is going further in the tournament and or winning a national title before Rick Barnes at Tennessee.
The battle between those two programs is going to be interesting because I think you look at like Tennessee and Vanderbilt football should be a fun rivalry moving forward, but you just don't know what Vandy's going to be post Diego Pavia. You expect Jared Curtis to be good, but I think there's a lot of wait and see with Vanderbilt football. Baseball right now, you know, Tim Corbin's kind of getting towards the end, not at the end, but on the backside of his career. Josh Elander, obviously been disappointing in year one. And women's basketball, Kim Caldwell right now has 0 players on her roster. Men's basketball is the one where I feel like it's the most evenly matched right now of like Byington and Barnes. Both are still going and they're both putting together really strong rosters. We've seen them split the season series back-to-back years. I think that this year is going to be really fun to watch the in-state rivalry between those two schools.
Yeah, and Tennessee as a whole, as a program and a university, I found it real interesting listening to Gentry on Robbie and Rex Road. He mentioned Tennessee being that everything school. They want to be good at everything per se. I think that we're getting to the point, and we all kind of know this, and we've already touched on it a little bit, on these programs having to pick and choose which programs they want to be good at. And hearing and seeing that Kim Caldwell does not have any players on her roster right now, and for that being a very historic program that Pat Summitt built from the ground up, it's sad to see, but also it comes into the generation of we're in the NIL. You wonder if Danny White is willing to spend. Obviously, he probably is because he's going to find the boosters to do so. But you got to start picking and choosing those those sports you want to really invest in.
Well, and with the history of the Lady Vols program, you would think that would be one of them.
Yeah.
And did you see Holly Rowe's tweet yesterday? It's since been deleted.
I did see it.
So Holly Rowe,
she deleted it.
She deleted it. Yeah. So Holly Rowe put out a tweet yesterday, basically saying, "I can't believe what Danny White is allowing to happen to the Lady Vols program. I'm devastated that this once historic program is being disgraced like this." Not exact words, but paraphrasing. And I mean, that's Holly Rowe, just like we talked about with Kevin Durant's name holds weight. Holly Rowe in women's basketball holds weight. She has relationships with all these coaches. And if she is going to go public and call out the head coach of Tennessee women's basketball, it's not a good sign for what's going on over there in Knoxville.
No, and it just makes you wonder how much longer can these Rocky Top boosters say, yeah, we're in on this.
I mean, I don't think you can fire her now. I mean, I know that people are always going to look at the Lady Vols brand and say, I can make it work there. But if you fire Kim Caldwell now, you've got to go hire a new head coach with nobody on your roster, and you're going to be getting a late start in the transfer portal. That spells disaster. So I think you're already too deep into it. You got to let Kim Caldwell have another year, but her seat is blazing hot heading into year 3.
Yeah, because then let's say Tennessee were to fire Kim Caldwell near the beginning of next season. That gives all those players on that roster currently, if there are, which there are going to be at least 5 on that roster.
Right now, there is one player who is officially, 2, but Olivia Edwards, their top signee, has requested out of her letter of intent.
Oh, wow.
So that right now, if she is released from her NLI, it would be one player, an incoming freshman, who is signed up to play for Tennessee next year.
Well, let's just say this. If they have players on their roster at the beginning of the season and Kim Caldwell is the head coach, that makes you think they go, let's say, move on from her. That gives those players, what, a 30-day window? Is that same thing as football?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. So I look at it as a lose-lose situation for Tennessee. They put themselves in a corner.
I do wonder, just to play devil's advocate here, because I know Kim Caldwell's getting a lot of flack. I think this past year she went into the portal and tried to grab a bunch of big names. Janiah Barker, former 5-star recruit, had played at Texas A&M, had played at UCLA, then got Jersey Wolfenbarger, another 5-star recruit, played at Arkansas, played at LSU. Went to the portal and got the names who you expect are going to be good players. This year, maybe she goes and says, they may not be the former McDonald's All-Americans, but they're going to fit in my system. They could come from mid-majors, but they're going to buy into our culture and our system. And maybe that works, right? Instead of going with the players that on paper should be better, you go with the ones that fit the best into her specific system. I wonder if maybe things will end up turning out better than you expect over there.
A Billy Bean, Kurt Signetti approach. Okay.
Right. I mean, I'm not, again.
But I also don't think her system's going to work. The 5 in, 5 out.
Yeah, I don't like her system, and I'm rooting for them to fail over there, right? Like I nobody wants them to be bad more than me, but I'm just saying maybe she went with we're Tennessee, we need to go get these big name players in the portal, and they just didn't mesh well. Maybe being given a clean slate and being able to say, I'm going to go get my players now. Maybe it works out. I don't know. It's going to be a long offseason.
Yeah, a long offseason. Another name that probably should be used a little bit more in the recruiting process of all this, and maybe she has been. I'm not well-versed with Tennessee Lady Vols basketball, but Candace Parker, where is that name at? Where can she be involved in this program to bring in those big-name players?
Yeah.
So this doesn't fall into a giant just mud pit.
I think Kim Caldwell wanted to separate herself from Pat Summitt a little bit of like, I'm not Pat Summitt. I'm trying to blaze my own path. But when you do that, you might alienate the people who made the program great. And when you do that, when you lose the alums, that's when things can turn south. So I don't know what's going on over there. Like they're gonna have a team. They're gonna get players, but if it gets off to a slow start in year 3 under Kim Caldwell, I don't think she's long for Knoxville. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Going to be a lot of chaos in the transfer portal over the next few weeks on the men's and women's side, and we will keep you updated as moves come in. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you'd like to react. Let's talk Preds on the other side. A 3-2 shootout loss to LA last night. It's not the worst, but also makes it tough for the Preds. Backs against the wall with 5 games to go. We'll get into all of it coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up. 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Predators with a tough loss last night were able to at least get the 1 point. Big goal from Roman Josi in the third period ties it at 2. And Max Hurst told us yesterday, LA only plays overtime games. I believe that was their 37th overtime game, somewhere in there. Over 30 overtime games in 77 total games this season. And the Preds fall 3-2 in a shootout, 1-0 in the shootout. Same score as the one against LA back on Thursday, except this one didn't go 8 rounds to end up deciding a winner. It's not the worst outcome possible, right? You are not. If you lost that game in regulation, especially with the Sharks winning last night as well, it'd be tough to look at the last 5 games and say, all right, we got a shot here. Maybe if you won out, but that would have basically been it. You would have been down to your last chances there. You probably have to win all 5 of those games. Getting the point at least keeps the door open for you, but you're in a tough spot. Now, 1 point back of the Kings. The Sharks are 1 point back of you, but still do have that game in hand, and they will not catch up until the very end of the season. They play a back-to-back next Wednesday and Thursday to wrap up the year. So the Sharks and Kings, they are the 2 biggest threats to the Preds. It really feels like a 3-team race there. Preds are going to have to play their best hockey down the stretch.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys know where I stand on the Nashville Predators. I still think they get into the playoffs regardless of what happened last night in overtime in the shootout. But I do think this Preds team last night, you could definitely see there was some road fatigue. Looked a little heavy at times, but I think in the first period they just got off to one of those slow starts like they've had in games past where they go down 2-0 or whatever. I know last night was a 1-0 after the first period, but I mean you got to have at least more than like 4 to 5 shots on goal in the first period. Got to at least attack the net a little bit. You could definitely tell, like I just mentioned, that their legs were a little heavy.
Stamkos got the goal 5-on-3 to tie it at 1, and then LA took the lead back before the end of the second period. Roman Josi tied it, and again, it's a big point. And you look back and you say that game on Thursday against LA when you led 4-1 and ended up having it go to overtime. That point could end up looming large. If you end up 1 point out of the playoffs, you have the tiebreaker over the Kings too. If LA ends up sneaking in by 1 point, you're going to look back and say, man, that 4-1 lead that we blew and gave them that overtime loss point, that could end up deciding your season. Everything's still out in front of the Predators. Right now, they have a 26% chance to make the playoffs, according to Money Puck. So it's not likely, but very possible. Tonight's a huge game. You're playing your 3rd game in 4 days against Anaheim. And here's what Money Puck has right now. If they beat the Ducks in regulation, 41.6% chance to make the playoffs. So you get back closer to 50-50. But if you lose in regulation, it drops all the way to 12.7%. And with 4 games to go, that's when it becomes not only for the Preds, if you lose this game in regulation, do you have to probably win out or at least get points in all of your games? You're going to need a lot of help. And the Kings and Sharks have a much easier schedule than you do down the stretch. So a win tonight would be massive. A loss really, really puts your chances to slim and none. And I think this, as we've said about every game, it's your most important game of the season tonight.
The one thing I do like about the Kings' schedule, obviously they have one of the easier schedules in comparison to San Jose and Nashville, is that their last 3 games they finish on the road at Seattle, at Vancouver, at Calgary. I know Vancouver is one of those teams at the bottom of the barrel, but you look at teams like Calgary and Seattle, yeah, they may not be much in the playoff race. Oh, minus Seattle for Calgary's purpose.
They are all eliminated from the playoff race at this point.
Perfect. You look at those teams, they remind me a lot of the New Jersey Devils. New Jersey Devils, not in the playoff race per se, but yet they have quality players that can really get you, in contention for a tight game. I think that's where you look at it from Calgary. Because again, Calgary's been one of those teams from when I've watched them the last couple of weeks, they've gone to overtime with a lot of top tier teams. So that's something to look at. As for the Nashville Predators, and also looking at Money Puck as well, the thing I don't like about it is say that it doesn't give you a projection of if the Preds do win and the Kings lose. It does not give you that percentage.
Yeah, you don't get to marry all of them together. It's game by game. So the Predators, they play tonight, then they play again on Thursday at Utah before returning home. There's still time left. It's not like you're down to your last 2 games of the season. I think you need 7 out of your last 10 points to have a chance to get into the playoffs. So that means 3 wins, an overtime loss, and you have 1 regulation loss I think you can still handle. But that's pretty much it. I think you got to win at least 3 of your last 5 games, and you can only have 1 regulation loss if the Preds are going to have a chance to get into the playoffs.
The best scenario for me, looking at the rest of the Preds schedule, say they win tonight at Anaheim and Justus Annunen is in goal, because I don't perceive to see UC Saros in net again.
Yeah, I think it's going to be on.
Yeah, if you can have Annunen in the net and give you at least only allowing 1 goal or even putting a shutout, that'd be fantastic. But looking at Utah, if you can take them to overtime and grab 1 point, I am okay with that. I don't know if that's okay with the standings perspective, but like you just mentioned, you think they could probably squeak away with 1 more regulation loss.
I think the Preds need to get back home.
Yeah.
Still in the conversation. If let's say you only get 1 point over your next 2 against Anaheim and Utah, your odds, I don't think you'd be eliminated, but you'd be like less than 10% chance. You're not really in the conversation at that point. That's a really tough situation to be in. I think you have to get back home to that game on Saturday against the Wild, feeling like you're still in the thick of things. And then you finish out the season here in Nashville, and you're going to have a chance. But these next 2 games are massive. Skylar texted in, says, "Hey, Jake, let me guess. Tonight is a big game for the Nashville Predators." Yes. As we've said, every game as we move forward is probably going to be the most important game of the season for the Preds. It's the situation they put themselves in. They struggled early in the season. They were the last place team in the Western Conference in December. They've dug their way out of it, but you're still fighting. LA, San Jose in the conversation as we come down the stretch here in the NHL season. 615-737-1025. We'll take more of your reaction on the Predators as they get ready for another massive game back-to-back tonight against Anaheim. 3rd game in 4 days, and the Preds sitting just 1 point out of wild card 2 in the Western Conference. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up. 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025, The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Tee it up with us at the 5th Annual 615 Open, May 28th at Hermitage Golf Course. We are once again supporting Folds of Honor to help them fund life-changing scholarships for families of America's fallen heroes. Register now to play or sponsor at 615open.com. The Predators last night falling in a shootout, 3-2 in LA. And I was thinking about it, and if you had told any Predators fan, told us, told whoever, last week, hey, you're going on this road trip, you play the Kings, the Sharks, the Kings, 3 straight, you're going to get 5 out of 6 points. I think everybody would say, sign me up. And it's funny to feel disappointed this morning at the way things ended up last night. The Preds, after getting a ton of help for about 2 weeks, where it felt like the Kings and Sharks and Kraken were losing every game they played, they've started to kick it into gear. And although the Preds have done a nice job of taking care of their own business, they're still on the outside looking in, and they have a lot of work to do down the stretch here.
They do. And I kind of treat this last 5 games of the season, per se, as a playoff series, like a first round playoff series. You got 2 away, you have 3 at home.
Yeah.
Sure, they're not, offsetting where you go
Right.
home and away, but yet you can kind of dictate the momentum of the rest of your season here of thinking, let's use this as an opportunity to get ready for the playoffs. And again, I know they're not in the playoff spot right now, but if you treat it like the playoffs, more than likely the result's going to come out to be that way.
Yeah, that's the way they have to treat it. I think 8 points gets you in. Like, if you get 8 points somehow, whether that's 4 wins or 3 wins and 2 overtime losses, I think you find your way in. 7, I think, is close. I think 6 or less, I don't see it happening because the Kings, again, their schedule is a lot easier than yours, and they've got the little bump here from that win last night. They're a point ahead. The Preds do have the tiebreaker, but I think 6 or less points in these last 5 games, and the Preds are going to be on the outside looking in, especially the Sharks have a game in hand. So I think 7 gives you a good chance. I think 8 for sure you're in. And it's not an easy task to say, hey, go get 8 out of 10 points in your last 5 games, especially playing playoff teams. Anaheim's a playoff team. Utah's a playoff team. Minnesota, and then San Jose is a team you're battling with. So you're not playing anybody who's just completely done. They're already getting their golf clubs ready for Mexico. Like, you've got to go out and compete against playoff level teams and go get 7 or 8 out of the next 10 points.
I think the best case scenario for the Nashville Predators when it comes to Los Angeles Kings, rest of their schedule, is after Vancouver on the 9th, which is this Thursday. On Saturday, they take on Edmonton at home. They need Edmonton to kind of,
drop the hammer.
Exactly. You need at least Connor McDavid to have 1 or 2 goals there. And then maybe that messes with the feng shui of the Kings' momentum, and they go on the road. First game's at Seattle. Seattle's no slouch. Again, I know that the playoff thing's not in their favor anymore, but they're no slouch. Same thing for Calgary. So I do still think the Preds have a valid opportunity to make the playoffs, not only from just their perspective of just win out and you're in, but the fact of the matter is, I don't think LA is as good as people think they are. Sure, they got the best of the Preds in a shootout last night. But again, they are, I guess, equal teams. But I would take the Preds over the Kings any day of the week.
I do think it makes you feel better that the Preds finished their season with a 3-game homestand. The Kings are on the road for 3 straight. So maybe that gives you a little bit of an edge there. But Preds, backs against the wall. Again, as it stands right now, Money Puck has them with a 26% chance to make the playoffs. A win tonight against Anaheim raises that above 40%. But a loss would be down to about 12%. So as we say every game, it's a big one. It's a big one tonight against Anaheim. 9 o'clock puck drop.
Yeah.
8 o'clock pregame. So
another late one.
At least it's not 9:30. That's all we can say.
Well, the first Kings game, it was like 9:45 because Kopitar, there was getting, I guess, inducted.
Right. It got almost to 10 o'clock Central Time, almost 11 o'clock Eastern Time.
Yeah. That's brutal, man.
But almost done. I think Utah's an 8 o'clock puck drop, so it's a little bit earlier, and then back home to finish the season. Before we wrap up on the Preds conversation, I do want to just shout out Steven Stamkos.
Yeah.
39th goal of the season last night. He is top 15 in the NHL in goal scoring. After last year, where things just didn't go the way, not just Steven Stamkos' hope, but the entire team hope. You were the 3rd worst team in the NHL last year. That is not why Steven Stamkos left Tampa Bay, where he's their franchise best player, to come to Nashville and finish his career. He didn't think they were going to be the third worst team in the NHL last year. And I think it would have been easy to do what a lot of guys do and just like, all right, well, this didn't work out. I'll collect my paycheck and just keep moving along. He is having a great season. I mean, 40 goals for Steven Stamkos if he scores one more in the last 5. What he has done and the way he has adapted his game to Bruno's system and gotten to be the star player the Preds brought him in to be has been fantastic.
Yeah, and the fact that it came on a power play goal last night, he's already 7th in all-time NHL history for most goals on the power play. But if he gets at least 6 more, he jumps up to top 5. Just think about that. If the Preds go on a playoff run, he gets at least 5 or 6 more in the playoffs. This guy is right behind Teemu Selanne.
I mean, this isn't Steven Stamkos from 10 years ago or even 5 years ago.
Right.
But I think Preds fans have to feel lucky that they're getting to watch one of the great players of our generation, and he is producing for this team. 39 goals this season to lead the team just ahead of Philip Forsberg. It's been really fun to watch him play. Justin from Greenbrier says on the text line, the best way to look at this from a fan perspective is if the Preds play well and make it in, great. If they miss it by a hair, you've seen some good things from this team, and I would add, especially the young players, and you get a lottery pick. So it's true. I just struggle with the idea of like, hey, you're in a playoff race with 5 games to go. Root for your team to get in. If they don't, sure, a lottery pick is a good consolation prize. But this team is battled after a really tough start to the season. I'd like to see them be rewarded with a playoff spot.
I agree. And especially for Barry Trotz, he's, done something that's not as, cut to the cloth as what we've seen in the past with Preds GMs. It's against the grain. I kind of like it. I've been on the same boat with that sentiment.
Yeah.
And looking at you talking about points earlier with the Preds to finish out the season, 8's probably the order of business for them. And looking game by game, say they beat Anaheim tonight, take Utah and Minnesota both to overtime to collect 1 point each. I'm cool with that. Then win out. Win out against San Jose, win out against Anaheim. And I know that sounds easier said than done, but if they can do stuff like that, I'm with you on
It's
that.
all easier said than done, but we've seen it before. They just had a 5-game winning streak. You'd love one more to end the season and punch your ticket to the playoffs. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you want to text or call, our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Today, the Nashville Sounds take on the Gwinnett Stripers, the AAA team for the Atlanta Braves. First pitch is at 5:35, and you can catch all of the action on Sports Talk 830, presented by Family Leisure and Social Cantina. Hour number 1 in the books. When we come back, we will get into the Titans here. We've talked about pick number 4 a ton, and of course, that conversation will rage on until April 23rd. But there's been a lot of discussion lately about trades. What could the Titans do, whether that's trading back, maybe trading up? And Bill Barnwell of ESPN put out his all trades mock draft yesterday, where he predicted a trade for all 32 NFL draft picks in the first round. And the Titans are featured 3 times. We will talk through those and look at what a trade could look like in terms of what players the Titans could target in the first round and beyond. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up. 1025 The Game. Next man up 1025, the game second hour on your Tuesday morning. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Big games last night, national championship. Michigan gets the win over UConn. Preds fall in a shootout to the Kings. But it is draft season. We got to talk about the NFL draft. We are 16 days away from opening night in Pittsburgh, and the Titans pick 4th overall. We've gone back and forth ad nauseum, and we'll continue on the Jeremiah Love, David Bailey, Arvell Reese, Ruben Bain, whoever it's going to be. But there has been a lot of buzz lately about what happens with the trades. And we've gotten texts yesterday about what would you think about the Titans trading back to 12. And I would love a trade down. I've made this clear. I think that the difference between who you're going to get at 4 and who you're going to get at 12 isn't all that wide. Like, you're not getting as good of a player, but I don't think there's a steep drop off until you get into like 12, 13, 14, 15. Then it starts to fall off from some of those higher end players. So I think you could get a similar caliber player and pick up a lot of draft picks, whether that's maybe an extra first round pick this year. Maybe it's a second round pick this year and a third round pick next year. You can get those top 100 picks that you've been craving and really not lose the caliber of player you're getting in the first round. So I'd love a trade. I don't know how likely it is, but I think it's my favorite scenario for the Titans at number 4.
Yesterday, Chase asked the question to Joe and I, do you see the Titans picking at 4? My initial thought was, yes, pick at 4. The back of my head, there is one scenario that I am a little worried about that I can see the Titans not trading back, but trading up.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because Bill Barnwell of ESPN, he does this every year, puts out an all trades mock draft, which most mock drafts say we're eliminating trades. It's too hard to predict what's going to happen. Bill Barnwell says, I'm going to predict every pick gets traded, and here's how it's going to happen. The Titans are mentioned in here 3 times, and all of them are very interesting. First one is at number 2. The Titans trade up to number 2, giving up the 4th overall pick, the 66th pick, 3rd round pick, and next year's 4th round pick. So not a totally steep price, but you move up 2 picks to number 2 to draft David Bailey. I would not be a fan of it, but I would that's the situation. If they traded up, I think it would be for David Bailey because he's probably going at 2 or 3. So I think that would be what it would be for. I'm not a fan of it. I don't think David Bailey is that type of prospect that you trade up for. Would love to pick him at 4. I don't want to give up extra draft capital to go up and get him.
Yeah, that was not what I was thinking. For a trade up for the Titans, that's not the player I was thinking about. And that's crazy that they're saying David Bailey would go that high.
No, I think David Bailey is going to be the second overall pick.
I know, but I'm talking about for the Titans.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I just don't see that happening.
I have seen some buzz the last couple days, and again, we're still 16 days out. Lots can change. Arvell Reese has been the name at number 2 that a lot of people have talked about, and the odds have reflected that he's the likely pick. I think I heard Daniel Jeremiah and Peter Schrager over the last 2 days say they think the Jets like David Bailey better. So Bailey or Reese at 2 is likely. Cardinals, I guess, take the other one, but there's a chance maybe they go offensive line. 9194 says, how about we trade Levis in the 35th pick for the Jets number 2 pick? Will Levis is not worth that much. That's like saying, I want to see the draft chart because I want to see what that would be saying Will Levis is worth.
I feel like that's just insulting. Like I'm sure the draft board's probably looking at you when you plug all that in thinking, why are you doing this? You're hurting my brain here.
So the Jets number 2 pick, according to the draft value chart, is worth 2,600 points. Number 35 is worth 550 points, meaning that Will Levis would be worth the 3rd overall pick if you made that trade. So, sorry, I don't think so. I wish that'd be a great trade for the Titans. You get picks 2 and 4, and all you give up is 35 and Will Levis. But sadly, that is not realistic. So that's the first one. I think it's unlikely. I don't think the Titans are wanting to give up draft capital to go up and get a player in this draft class that just isn't one of your like if it was Von Miller sitting there at 2, I'd understand it. Go up and get him because that is a guy who you're looking at as a generational type pass rush prospect. Myles Garrett would be another example. I don't see David Bailey in that tier. I think he's worth the number 4 pick. I wouldn't give up extra draft capital to go get him. At number 4, this one's interesting. It's with the Chiefs. So the Titans trading back to 9 to the Chiefs and picking up their second round pick at number 40. Also, the Titans give up a 5th and a 6th round pick. The way the math works on this one, the Titans' first round pick at number 4 is worth $1,800. The Chiefs is worth $1,350. And KC's second round pick is worth $500. So, yeah, I guess the math works out there, but I always view it as the team trading up probably has to overpay a little bit. Like, that's usually how it works. If you want to come up and you have a guy you want to get, it's not going to be 1 for 1. All right, the Jimmy Johnson chart lines up evenly. You're going to have to give a little bit extra on top. I don't love the value the Titans would get there. If it was 9 and 40 straight up for 4, sure. I don't love the idea of having to give up extra on top of that.
Maybe you give up the 5th in that situation, but I can't, or maybe a 6th, but maybe not a 5th.
See,
one of those picks has to stay.
Here's what I could get behind. Instead of 40, the Chiefs have 2 first-round picks. Give us 29, and we'll give you a cherry on top going back, maybe a 4th-round pick or something like that. So it would be you'd get 9 and 29 for 4 and 101. That I could get behind. You're getting 2 first-round picks in that scenario. But for 40, I don't like having to give up a sweetener going back the other way.
Yeah, and again, I'm trying not to be unrealistic at this point, but say if that were the case of 29 and 9, you could then go turn those picks around to another team that you know is going to be picking top 3 next season and give them 2 first-round picks this year.
For Jeremiah Smith.
Yes,
all roads in Nick Fraser's mind lead back to Jeremiah Smith.
That I'm telling you, there is a one direction and the train goes forward, and that goes towards Jeremiah Smith near his house. You know, the Polar Express.
Yeah,
it goes next to everybody's house. Jeremiah Smith is on that location. So we're gonna pick him up, gonna put him on the Titans train. We're gonna continue with Jeremiah Love and Jeremiah Smith.
Well, if they can't get a set for, I would say with the Chiefs, that's my ask is I want both of your first round picks. If you're coming up to 4, we'll send you a sweetener going back. Like the math wouldn't work out for 4 for 9 and 29, but I wouldn't do it for that package that Bill Barnwell has put together.
And I think the Chiefs would be on par with what you just said there about that trade, because let's face it, they're going for it. They signed
Right.
Kenneth Walker. They have the cachet to, get rid of those draft capital that is. They can go do stuff like that. Whereas for the Titans, they're in a different phase. They need to rebuild a little bit.
Right.
They're wanting to acquire that draft capital. So I think Andy Reid and that Kansas City front office is saying, yeah, let's do this thing.
The third trade that Bill Barnwell has the Titans involved in is a very intriguing one. And actually one that I don't know if I could fully get behind it, but it does check some boxes. So the Bills would get the Titans' second and third round picks, 35 and 66. The Titans get the 26th overall pick, first round pick, a 5th round pick, and wide receiver Keon Coleman. Giving up both of your day 2 picks is tough. So I don't know if I would 100% say, yeah, call that into the league, but getting Coleman, who adds another young, maybe underutilized talent from the Bills at wide receiver, that would fill out the wide receiver room to me. I don't think you'd need to use a draft pick there. And you add another first round pick to go with whoever you take it for. It'd be intriguing for me. I don't know if I'd do it, but I would at least think about it.
Jake, which trash can you want me to throw up in? The one on the left or the one on the right? Because either way, this situation, I'm saying hell to the no for this one. I mean, the baggage that Keon Coleman brings to the Tennessee Titans, if that were the case in this trade, and you're losing draft capital, no thanks. Even Deion Dawkins said last season that the kid needs to grow up. He was a healthy scratch in like 5 games last season because he wasn't checked into games. To me, and you're playing with one of the best quarterbacks in all the NFL in Josh Allen, and you're not wanting to be one of his reliable resources, to me that says, get out of here, man. You're a second-year guy. There's a lot of growth when it comes to a player like that. But I am out on Keon Coleman. No thanks.
See, the way I view this is just match it up 1-to-1. Would you rather have your picks at 4, 35, and 66, or your picks at 4, 26, and Keon Coleman? And again, I don't know the answer there, but I think it's at least worth it. If this was offered to you, I think it's at least worth a thought. Do you think moving up 9 spots in the second round into the first round is worth it to give up your third round pick for Keon Coleman.
No, absolutely not. Because this Titans franchise as a whole has always been without that third round pick the last couple seasons. You want to see what you can do on that this year.
That's true. They have not had their own third round pick in three drafts now.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying I would do it. I'm saying it's intriguing because you get to move back into the first round and maybe you can get a player who wouldn't have fallen to 35 to you. If you go Jeremiah Love at 4, maybe you can get one of those edge rushers that might not make it out of the first round, and you're able to add a project wide receiver that could be more talented than the guy you could take in the third round. That's again, not advocating for it, just saying it's an interesting trade.
It is an interesting trade, but I'm just, you know me well enough. I'm a stubborn-headed guy. I can't help myself. That to me is a slap in the face. That's saying the Buffalo Bills are getting more bang for their buck, and the Titans are over here saying we're going to just try to figure out what we can do with Keon Coleman. To me, the Titans don't need a Keon Coleman because they got rid of a Keon Coleman last season when Mike Borgonzi took over, and that's a guy that was Jarvis Brownlee Jr., a cancer in the locker room, not a good culture fit. To me, I think Keon Coleman fits that bill of not being a good culture fit.
It's not all about Keon Coleman though. It's about those 9 spots you move up. Like there is value in getting up into the first round. You get the 5th-year option on that contract, and you can get a player that likely wouldn't have been there for your 35. That the text line is not thrilled with my thoughts on this. Which I get it. Like Keon Coleman has not lived up to the hype, but I think you look at it, the value here. You move up 9 spots, you get a 5th round pick and Keon Coleman basically for a third. That's all you're giving up is a third. To move up 9 spots, you get a 5th and you get Keon Coleman. Not saying I'd do it, not saying pull the trigger immediately. I just think that it would deserve some thought, maybe some background research into Keon Coleman, why things went wrong with the Bills. I just think it's interesting from Bill Barnwell.
It's fair. I mean, take him out to dinner, see how things are going in the off season. Say, hey, Keon, you like a nice T-bone steak? You want a tomahawk? If he tells you he wants a tomahawk, that means to me, if he wants a tomahawk steak over just a regular T-bone steak, he's not there yet mentally. He's thinking too big of a prize. Just get something that you're going to satisfy your hunger. I'm using a lot of paraphrasing here, but just if you can get something to satisfy your hunger this season and get you over the hump, then sure. But as for right now, I just can't get on with it because of the recent history, not with just that third round pick, but for Titans fans as a whole when it comes to wide receivers coming into this organization. When we go with Julio Jones, I mean, A.J. Brown was a successful wide receiver. What could have been, didn't really pan out. You go after guys like Calvin Ridley. What are some other no-name, Randy Moss? I mean, just Andre Johnson. You bring in these marquee names that, go into the Hall of Greats for the Titans, and they were here for just a cup of coffee. So I wonder if Keon Coleman might be the cup of coffee-esque when it comes to this upcoming season, if that were to be a trade. But yes, Jake, I think you're on the spot with the value. I can't just subscribe to that just yet.
Yeah, people are on your side. Keegan might be, he's the conductor of the Bane train. We've talked about that. He is Keon Coleman's biggest hater. He's texted 7 times about how awful that is. Why are we talking about Keon Coleman? So Keegan loves Ruben Bane, hates Keon Coleman. 615-737-1025. But he's not alone. We've gotten 4 texts. B-Man asks if I'm high for thinking about that trade.
Whoa, too far. Everybody knows that one lady that called in one morning and said, am I on the gummies? I don't do gummies. So let's just put that out there straight up.
He does brownies.
No, I don't do any of that. Kidding. It's just tiramisu. That's all it is.
615-737-1025. And I understand it. Keon Coleman has been a disappointment. I just think value-wise and getting to move back into the first round, it's intriguing. Doesn't mean I do it. It's intriguing, though. 615-737-1025. We'll get to your phones and also look more concretely at what a trade back could look like for the Titans at number 4. Specifically with the Dallas Cowboys, because I know that's the one that everybody points to. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up. 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you. Draft day, 16 days away. We're going through possible Titans trade scenarios at the top of the draft. But before we get back into that, let's go to the phone lines. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, Dr. Locke is called in. Thanks for calling, Dr. Locke. Good morning.
What's up, fellas? I'm doing my best to try to get y'all a little, what we call in the car business, a little mama don't know money. Last night, it wasn't an easy win, but still, depending where you got in, 6.5, 7 points, UConn and the points covered. So it's another gift from Dr. Locke to y'all.
By half a point there, but you had it.
Hey, they all can't be rocket chair games. I gave you a rocket chair with Michigan, where you lay back, have an iced tea in a rocket chair. No, you had to sweat that one out. That's why they call it gambling.
It's very true. No, it was very close, but Michigan couldn't quite get over that 6.5 there. So we appreciate it, Dr. Locke.
Yeah, just chalk another one up to the Big Ten. On one side the Big Ten wins. Unfortunately, it's the that team. That team had to do it. But,
yeah.
UCLA gets another one for the girls. That's a good thing. And as far as the Titans, if you want, it's a no-brainer. Jeremiah Love, called in, talked to D-Mace. D-Mace is right on board with that. It's Jeremiah Love and don't look back. The only other scenario possible that makes sense is trading back and getting a couple spots. But right there at 4, you've got a generational talent, 10, 12-year starter. Going into the stadium, you've got a huge name there that's going to sell jerseys and put butts in the seat. But he is the best talent in the draft. I mean, the two quarterbacks are Bailey. Really? He's no – you look at all the edge rushers that have come out over the years, all the edge rushers from Ohio State, all the absolute no-miss edge rushers. He's not one. Neither is the Bain kid. They're going to be starters. They're not going to be generational. You don't pick Jeremiah Love, and for the next 10 years, you watch that guy go for 1,800 yards. That's going to kill the morale. So you take Jeremiah Love, and you can't miss. And really, the fans deserve a no-miss. So draft that kid, sit back, and enjoy a 12-year future Hall of Famer.
I appreciate the call, Dr. Locke, and I think that's where I would lean to. That I think if Bailey's off the board, Jeremiah Love is probably the guy. And we've seen some intel talking about Ruben Bain. I saw Matt Miller put out this morning that he's hearing Ruben Bain might not even go in the top 10. Cornell Tate's the one that's kind of interesting, I guess, because there's rumblings that he might be a top 5 pick. Does that mean the Titans? Would the Giants take him? Heck, could the Jets take him? My favorite Daniel Jeremiah quote of the week was, man, if Cornell Tate was 205 pounds and ran a 4.42, he'd go second overall. Yeah. And if my aunt had wheels, she'd be a bike. That's, and I stole that from Twitter, by the way. I don't get it. It's like, yes, if he was faster and stronger, he would go higher in the draft. Thank you for the insight there, Daniel Jeremiah.
If I was 6'5" and 250 pounds, I'd be in the draft too.
Right. I thought, I laughed out loud at that. It's like, man, if he was 205 and ran a 4.42 40, he'd go second overall. Great. He doesn't. What exactly did that add to our knowledge of the draft? But anyway,
goose egg.
The Titans picking it 4, and you said Chase asked you yesterday, if you had to guess, do they pick it 4? I'd say yes. I go 90% yes. And it's less about the Titans not wanting to trade back. It's just, I don't know who wants to trade up. And I mentioned heading into the last break that the Cowboys are probably the team that we've talked about the most, just because of the Jerry Jones of it all. And also that the Giants are picking one pick behind you. And there are going to be players. I've seen Sonny Styles rumored heavily to go to the Giants. Caleb Downs, of course, has been linked to them. If the Titans pass on Jeremiah Love, maybe he goes there. And if there's somebody that Jerry Jones really wants and he can take them away from his division rival, I think he might be willing to overpay, especially with all of the draft capital that they now have, having traded Micah Parsons. They've got 2 first-round picks next year. They've got Green Bay's first-round pick next year. So I do think if there is a trade partner, Dallas would make a whole lot of sense.
Did I hear 2 first-round picks next year?
No, they traded one of those for Quinnen Williams.
That's right.
I believe.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
But the issue is, and we'll get into the simulator in the next segment. The simulator thinks that getting 12 and 20 is too much for number 4. And I've tried to throw in some sweeteners there. Everything I give up, I feel like is a little bit too much. So I'm about to offer, and I wish I could just force a trade through. So just to go through the exercise here, and maybe eventually I'll just give up next year's first round pick for the sake of the argument. But I'm trying to give up 4, 101, and next year's second for 12 and 20. And it says no, which I feel like is good value.
That's great value.
Anyway, I think just for the sake of the argument, and again, I wouldn't give up next year's first for 12 and 20, but just to make it go through so we can go through the process, I'm going to put it through just so we can do this. So that's likely accept 4 and next year's first for 12 and 20. Again, this is not a trade I would make, but I just want to be able to go through and see who would be there at those picks. So we'll do that coming up next. We'll go through the first 3 rounds of the draft if the Titans were to trade out and see what they'd be able to get at those spots. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. Today, Vanderbilt baseball takes on Eastern Kentucky at Hawkins Field. First pitch is at 6 p.m. You can catch all of the action on 94.9 The Fan. Coverage is presented by Gary Force Acura. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1-2-5 the game. Join 1025 The Game and catch the biggest golf tournament of the year at 5 Iron Golf, located at 202 21st Avenue South in Nashville. 1025 The Game will be broadcasting live all day, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. this Thursday and Friday. Stop in and enjoy great food, golf, prizes, and more with fellow fans from start to finish. Don't miss it, only at 5 Iron Golf. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. That was the Tigers theme song down the stretch last year.
That song right there?
Yeah, they played it in the locker room during all their celebrations and stuff like that.
That's on my rotation every day, by the way.
Really?
Yes. That song. And when we were talking about the Preds and I heard Cotton Eye Joe play, to me, oh man, I could think about just funnel cakes. Because when I was a kid, we had season tickets to the Preds. Every time I heard that song, I'd always get a funnel cake.
I think
I was a big kid.
Like elementary school PE when we did the dance unit, and it's we did the Cupid Shuffle and the Cotton Eye Joe and the Cha-Cha Slide, and it's like, man, can't believe I was spending an hour of my day doing that back in third grade.
Time flies.
Did want to mention quickly before we get back into the trade stuff. We mentioned for the Lady Vols that Olivia Edwards, the McDonald's All-American, she had asked to be released from her letter of intent. She just put out there that she is officially decommitting from Tennessee and will be going somewhere else. So officially, one player signed up to play for Kim Caldwell next year.
Best of luck to her.
Let's go.
Yeah, and we'll see. It's Gabriella Minus, I think, is the last player. She's a top 100 recruit. I think she's going to end up there, but who knows?
It's not a great last name for Kim Caldwell right now. Minus. Come on.
A lot of minuses in that program.
We're really just getting rid of players at this point.
So we're going through, I've mentioned, I think the Titans are more than likely going to stick and pick at 4. I just don't think there's going to be a trade partner for the Titans, but if there is, Dallas is the one that stands out to me. That's the team that I look at and say, they've got the draft capital to come up and do it. They'd be getting in front of a division rival. And that's a team that I think feels like they're a missing piece away, whether that's Jeremiah Love or David Bailey. They're one piece away from contending with what they have on the offensive side of the ball, Dak and CD and George Pickens. So they would be one of the teams that would make a go-for-it move. So we have forced through a simulation here that has given the Titans 12 and 20, holding on to their day 2 picks. I don't know how realistic that is, but just for the sake of the argument, let's see what they can get with this trade. So on the clock at 12, the best players on the board, both cornerbacks are still there. Mansour Delane, Jermon McCoy, which I saw earlier today. Some of the intel is saying McCoy might now be the first corner off the board with what he did at the pro day. So he's looking healthy. I wouldn't be shocked if he goes ahead of Delane. Also have Monroe Freeling, the tackle from Georgia. Mekhi Lemon is on the board. Keldrick Falk from Auburn. I kind of like Mekhi Lemon here at 12.
Give me some Mekhi Lemon.
All right, Mekhi. So you get Mekhi Lemon at 12, picking again at 20. If there's an edge rusher here, I think that's probably what I'm leaning towards. So Keldrick Falk is on the board at 18. Wouldn't hate that. Akeem Messidor from Miami is there. If you want a guy who's had a little bit more production, I think that might be the guy at 20. Maybe a little high for him, but I don't hate it. You could go corner here. Colton Hood's on the board. Brandon Cease from South Carolina is on the board. I kind of like Messidor here.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about the production that was shown last season in college football. I think that's your guy of the future.
Right. And he's older. That's the one knock on him is that I think he's 24, 25, but if you're going to get 5 good years of production, even if you give him a second contract, you're still getting the prime years of his career. I don't think you can really worry about that here. So Akeem Messidor at 20. I mean, I like that. 4, whatever you could have gotten at 4 versus Mekhi Lemon and Akeem Messidor, I think that's a good move. Back on the clock at 35. I think, you're going best player available here, but I think you could go corner. Jacob Rodriguez is on the board at linebacker. I think you could go interior of the offensive line, although I don't really see anybody there that's like Basantis just went off the board. Caden Proctor's there. That's a big guy at tackle.
If not a former Alabama tackle.
Yeah. He I wouldn't be able to pronounce it. The Arizona State offensive tackle, but I know he's good.
Yes.
If you wanted to go tackle as like a successor to to Dan Moore.
And that's what, a third-round pick there?
This is 35, second-round pick.
Second-round pick. Ooh.
Jacob Rodriguez, you got corners on the board. Malachi Lawrence, if you wanted to double up on edge. You could go defensive tackle. Lee Hunter's there. Caden McDonald.
I'd go inside linebacker.
So Jacob Rodriguez?
Yeah, I'd be okay with Jacob Rodriguez.
I don't hate it.
Again, that's
a very Robert Saleh pick.
Yeah, that's a guy that has a lot of production with tackles. That is over 100 tackles in last season with Texas Tech. But overall, I don't think you can go and grab an offensive tackle or an offensive lineman in the second round. I think it's a little much.
Well, and a couple of them just went off the board before you came on the clock at 35. So it's like maybe there was somebody there who'd be worth it, but you'd be reaching otherwise. All right, last pick here. We're only doing the first 3 rounds. This was just the point of this is just to kind of see if you did trade back and you got that extra first round pick, how could you use it? And I like the way it's turning out. Maybe you go, oh, here we go. I like this pick. Keelan Rutledge, the guard from Georgia Tech at 66. I did see Peter Schrager had him in the first round today in his mock draft. So maybe he's like your Cole Strange of this year's draft, like the guard that just sneaks in there. But Keelan Rutledge, I like that. That rounds out the interior of your offensive line. I mean, if that's the move, and that's why I like the trade back, you open up the ability to fill more holes. And you end up leaving the third round with Mekhi Lemon, Akeem Mesidor, Jacob Rodriguez, Keelan Rutledge. That's a haul.
Yeah.
So there's your, if you're going to trade back, that's kind of what you could get. The question becomes, do you value that more than one of those guys who's going to be on the board for you at 4? Jeremiah Love, David Bailey, Arvell Reese. Do you value that extra pick that you're getting over the type of player that you're getting at number 4?
I think if you're talking from an edge rusher to those 4 picks that you grab from that trade, I would say the 4 picks is worth more than any edge rusher in that top 4 pick there, in my opinion.
I mean, especially getting Mesidor at 20, who I think is just, it's one of those guys that if you're looking talent-wise and production-wise, he probably should be taken higher than that, but I think you're a little scared by the fact that he's older.
Right.
And so I like the way that turned out. I really do.
Now, as for a running back perspective, I don't know if those 4 picks are worth more than Jeremiah Love. I know that's a bold thing to say.
You have depth in that running back room right now, and I think it's a nice job by this team of they haven't made it desperate anywhere. And so, yeah, if you take Jeremiah Love, Tony Pollard doesn't stop you from making that pick. But if you don't take Jeremiah Love, it's not like you have to press to get another running back, I don't think.
Yeah, I could see that. I just think, and from what people have said, listening to Jeff Fisher and others on these airwaves, along with just online, if you grab a perennial talent in Jeremiah Love, that does help out Cam Ward. That's my only thing that it's hindering me from saying, yes, those 4 other picks are better than Jeremiah Love. I think a running back quarterback combo, and we all saw it with Steve McNair and Eddie George, and even after that, Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill from a certain extent, because Derrick Henry, he did have a little bit of a rough start with the Titans.
Yep.
And you can even say it with DeMarco Murray in some cases as well. Like when he was with the Titans with Marcus Mariota.
Yep.
That helped Marcus out a lot with having a good running back. So that's kind of where I'm at on all that. But overall, I do think that trade offer and trade, value there with those 4 picks is by all means a home run.
Yeah, and I don't know if you'd be able to get 12 and 20 without giving up 35 or 66. This was just kind of like, that's what people have been saying is you trade 4 to the Cowboys, you get 12 and 20. I just wanted to get an idea of what kind of players does that get you. And I like it. Lemon, Mesidor, Jacob Rodriguez, which I feel like was the real addition here, where you feel like you kind of gotten to get an edge. You got to get a wide receiver. You got holes on the interior of the offensive line. But making this trade allowed you to go get a field general inside linebacker that Robert Saleh is going to love in Jacob Rodriguez. So I do like the doors that it opens for you. Is it possible? Probably not.
You never know.
We won't know until draft night.
Crazier things have happened, Jake.
That is true.
Draft night is definitely a great movie and also a great time of year.
Hey, we're 2 weeks away from the annual viewing of Draft Day, and I can't wait. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Let's go to our phone lines. Trey is called in. Trey, good morning. Great to hear from you. What you got for us?
Good morning. Good morning. Just got back from Colombia Saturday, Medellin. And it was a good trip, I went down there to get my dental work done, But I had this wisdom tooth that had been, I was in pain, excruciating pain for like the last 2 weeks. So I just called my orthodontist and flew down there, man. And man, man, they're a gift from God, man. I'm telling you, if you want to get good service, go to Columbia. They do it all. And you can pay cash. If you ain't got a credit card, you can pay cash. That's how much I love Columbia. But it's great. And you know what I'm saying? It's like, I believe that, I walked around, I did my thing. Nobody bothers me. It's like I'm a local, it's like I don't have to like be a show off, It's like, you could go to Walmart and get some clothes from Walmart and break those clothes in here in America and show up in another country and show some humbleness. Nobody will bother you. It's like, people ask me all the time, well, why did you choose Columbia? And I said, because, I just woke up one day and I asked Google, what's the cheapest place to live? And it was like in the top 3. And I just booked the ticket, met some people down there, and just started walking around like I was a local. And next thing you know, I'm a local, And God is good, man. If you believe in God, just like I don't even call and talk about the Titans because I know that they're going to come out there with some violence and some humbleness. Violence and humbleness. Show your spirit. You know what I'm saying? Show your good energy. Nobody will bother you, and that's how I live, But everything went well. I got my braces taken care of. My smile. I'm going to have a $10,000 smile, y'all. Can y'all believe it?
For a fraction of the price.
Dude, they would have charged, before I even left to go down there, they would have charged me $3,000 to fix 3 teeth, dude. I was like, are you kidding me?
Well, Trey,
So,
we are glad that you had safe travels down there.
Hey, I'm telling you, bro. Hey, you believe in God. Hey, he performed miracles for you. I'm telling you, you gotta believe in God. I'm telling you, believe in him. He'll work magic. I'm telling you. And I love y'all, and y'all have a good day. Hey, y'all keep me informed. Hey, when I get back over there, I'm gonna be listening to y'all. I'm gonna be texting in and stuff. I'm gonna send y'all some pictures and everything. Y'all gonna love it.
Awesome.
I love y'all.
Thank you, Trey. Appreciate the call. Wow, lots to unpack there.
$10,000 for teeth, and he did it at a fraction of the price.
And you can do it in cash.
In cash, and they treat you like a local. I wonder if he speaks Spanish.
Every time Trey calls in, it just takes a turn that I wasn't expecting.
I'm so just in awe.
I need a break. I just need a couple of minutes here to recalibrate after what that call was. There's a clip in there, and if Ian's still around, I want to flag that for Ian to grab for a rant of where he says, if you want good service, you can pay cash. I want to go back and get that one. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll wrap up the second hour on the other side. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. We are slowly recovering from Trey's call. You never know what you're going to get. I was thinking about it, the character development of Trey over the past year. You couldn't script it much better. I mean, from him being the guy who called in bashing Cam Ward for 8 weeks straight before we found out that he hadn't watched any of Cam Ward play. Of course, that was the big moment in Trey's arc here. And then when Jeffrey Simmons had his home invasion and Trey called up and was like, they're rolling 8 deep. And we're like, where did you find that information now, Trey? And now he's in Colombia getting dental work done.
And he was taken care of for a fraction of the cost. He said it would have been $10,000 if he did it here in the States.
Yeah, he said he's going to have a $10,000 smile. Trey said he's going to be sending us pictures. I hope he's talking, of his teeth and not like other endeavors down in Colombia, but, what a call.
Supposedly it's a great place. I know Colombian coffee's fantastic.
Yes.
Had that.
Yeah.
So I wonder if he had a little bit of that while he was down there. I'm worried about like the flying incident of all this.
Right. Yeah. You were saying that like after dental surgery, like you're not supposed to fly.
Well, like if you're with wisdom teeth, that is, you're not supposed to
Right.
do any sort of like travel of some sorts up in the air because the elevation affects like the
Right.
blood.
Yeah.
You don't want
The
any clotting.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I don't know how we transition from all of that, but we're going to do our best here. Thank you for the call, Trey. You've given us some content this morning. Just talking about the Titans in general, I guess, as they get ready for the draft in just over 2 weeks. Trey said he wanted us to keep him informed. That's what we're trying to do. I don't think they're going to trade back. I think when we talk about how the cluster of players in the top 10 to 15 are all, there's not a big drop off. I think it's not just us who realize that. I think a lot of teams realize that and say, why would we give up the extra draft capital to move up unless there's a player that they just fall in love with? And maybe Jeremiah Love is that guy. And if you get an offer, if you're sitting on the board at 4, and if you stick and pick, your pick is Jeremiah Love, and somebody offers you a trade that you think is good value, I think you have to take it. A running back just isn't quite as valuable as getting those extra picks, the extra draft capital that can help you build the foundation of this team. I like Jeremiah Love, and if your only option is to stick and pick and Bailey's off the board, turn in the card. I don't care. But if somebody's offering you extra value, extra top 100 picks to move back, I think you take it.
Yeah, and I started off the conversation when we were talking about this Bill Barnwell mock draft, including trades. And I told you, yeah, the Titans were to stick and pick a 4, that's fine. But to me, there's one scenario where they trade up, and it's not for an Arvell Reese or a David Bailey. It's for Jeremiah Love because I'm worried about other teams interested in Jeremiah Love. Like in Bill Barnwell's article here, the mock draft, he has the Arizona Cardinals trading with the Washington Commanders. To me, I've seen in other mock drafts that Adam Schefter's been a part of, Peter Schrager. They all have sometimes with the running back Jeremiah Love going to the Commanders. So to me, that's my biggest worry is that there's a team that's going to leapfrog the Titans into getting Jeremiah Love. Because if it's me, you at all costs go and grab Jeremiah Love.
Yeah, I think my worst case scenario looking at this draft is Bailey goes 2, and then the Cardinals or somebody else jumping up takes Jeremiah Love.
Yeah.
Because I think those are my 2 guys that I'd be happy taking it for. Reese wouldn't be a horrible consolation prize. Like there's a reason why he's been rumored to be a top 3 pick this whole time. I don't feel quite as good about his red flags as I do about Love and Bailey. They've all got warts. None of them are perfect prospects. I like Bailey and Love and think we can overlook some of their issues more than Reese or Bain. So if the Titans are on the clock at 4 and Bailey and Love are gone, Reese would probably be the pick. Another guy I could see them possibly going for in that spot would be Sonny Styles. Wouldn't love it, but I think that would be possible if Bailey and Love are both gone.
Yeah, and a guy like Sonny Styles, again, one of those players that had high production at the collegiate level where you can finally get a good value off a guy like that, get a good assessment. So if that is the case for Sonny Styles of the Titans, then anything in the top 10 is a great pick. Like you can't go wrong with any of those picks.
Here's what I'll say. If Bailey and Love are gone, I would feel very confident saying the Titans' 4th pick will be an Ohio State Buckeye. And it could be any of the 4, right? It could be Reese, Styles, Downs, or Tate. But I would feel very confident if the first 3, no matter who's making the picks, goes Mendoza, Bailey, Love. the second part of the read from Roger Goodell will include the Ohio State University. So we'll see. Tate has gotten some buzz into the top 5 of the last few days. We're going to have that conversation with Carnell Tate about Carnell Tate with Corey Curtis tomorrow because I know he has some strong thoughts on the Ohio State receiver. 615-737-1025. Draft day getting closer. I mean, I think we've only got like 12 more shows left until draft day. So it's getting close.
So when do you play the movie? That's my thing.
Wednesday night.
Oh, so
Wednesday night, the day
okay.
before.
All
So you get in the mindset and then you wake up Thursday night, Thursday morning ready to go for draft day. So that's the plan. And I'm thrilled. At least I got to confirm. But draft day being Thursday, as it always is, likely means we'll have TD on draft day, which is that's perfect lineup of the way it could work. So 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. We got one more hour on this Tuesday. All of our offseason coverage is brought to you by Tennessee Brewworks, the official craft beer of the football offseason on ESPN 1025 The Game. Lots to get to in the final hour. Nashville SC plays a big one tonight after a loss over the weekend. The first leg of their CONCACAF Champions Cup quarterfinal match against Club America. We'll talk with Dr. Crane about that. And also, UNC has finally made a hire. We'll get into the news that Tar Heels, once again, have gone to a former pro champion to be their next head coach in Michael Malone. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Final hour on this Tuesday, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Been a busy show today. National championship game last night. Michigan gets the win over UConn. Preds falling in a shootout, 3-2, still in the mix for that final wild card spot, but some work to do, including tonight against Anaheim. We'll talk about that game towards the end of the show. Just talk some Titans with the draft approaching, but big news yesterday. There's been a lot of speculation over who could be the next head coach at North Carolina after moving on from Hubert Davis. Mark Byington had been in the mix for that conversation. Both of the coaches that we saw over the weekend with Tommy Lloyd in Arizona and even Dusty May had been approached about it. They decided to go outside the box. Michael Malone, the former NBA champion head coach of the Denver Nuggets, is going to be the head coach at North Carolina. Clearly, UNC, the athletic department, looked and saw, you know what, hiring a former champion NFL coach as our football coach worked out so well last year. Let's just do the same thing in basketball.
Look, very good NBA coach. He has over 500 wins as an NBA head coach, NBA championship with the Denver Nuggets. That's all great. You wonder if it's going to translate to the college game because
it's just so different.
It is extremely different. Like the pro style, again, doesn't really translate to the college level. And again, you know how I was griping at the beginning of the show of like what's going on with the 3-man weave around the 3-point line. I don't think Coach Malone is going to be that type of guy at UNC. I wonder what the interview process was like for him. I mean, obviously he has a daughter enrolled at the University of North Carolina, but minus that, I want to know what the criteria was for a head coach like that. Was it a desperate, we need to hire a prolific coach, or was it more of, no, you're the right fit. I think this is the direction we want to go.
Well, I think they were waiting on Billy Donovan.
Yeah.
And there were reports yesterday after Malone was announced as the head coach that Donovan likely would have taken the job, or at least would have seriously considered it, but he didn't want to leave the Bulls midseason. And I get that. You don't want to just quit on your team, but North Carolina can't wait. Again, we talked about in the first hour, the portal is already open. There are players out there that you need to go build your roster. And for North Carolina, you couldn't just sit around waiting and hoping Billy Donovan would take the job at the end of the year. So I get why they did it. I just look at this like with Belichick and North Carolina. Obviously, he is one of the greatest NFL head coaches of all time. But you clearly saw there was a drop-off without Tom Brady. When Brady left, Bill Belichick and some of the decisions he made with personnel, the decisions he made with his coaching staff, they weren't great. And it hasn't worked out going to the college ranks and making that transition. I just wonder if this is going to be similar. First off, can Michael Malone adjust to being a college coach after dealing with professionals for so long? And I know these guys get paid now too, but it's different. Like you're dealing with 18 to 22-year-olds, whereas, yeah, you might have some young guys in your NBA locker room, but these guys are veterans for the most part. I also look at it and say, yeah, you can call him an NBA champion, and I think Michael Malone is a good coach, but without Nikola Jokic in his prime, he wasn't really all that successful at the NBA level. Like, he made it to the conference finals in the bubble, and outside of that, he's never made it past the second round of the playoffs outside of the 1 year they won the title. So I do wonder if it's like, is Michael Malone actually one of these great coaches that they're bringing in from the NBA ranks? Or was it more Nikola Jokic and some of the guys they had around them that elevated him to being a champion level head coach?
It goes back to our conversation we had about Tennessee and Vanderbilt with Rick Barnes and Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
That brings in the cachet and reputation of, yeah, I can bring in these guys for recruiting purposes. Whereas for a guy like Michael Malone, he could go on a recruiting, tour across the nation and sees, an interior guy that's a power forward or center and saying, hey, you have the intangibles to bring the ball down the court, but also the intangibles to really break it down inside the paint. You could be my Nikola Jokic at UNC. That could be the sales pitch. And if that is, maybe this thing does work out for him, because we were talking about earlier, this could be a domino effect for teams in college basketball to where your boosters are saying, yeah, maybe this is not going to work. But if it does end up panning out for a guy like Coach Malone at UNC, then that's the direction I think they have to go through. If they don't, then I'm not sure what the direction is.
North Carolina, it's just such an interesting direction to go in with your athletic department. Now, for North Carolina football, I kind of understood it because you're not known as a football school. It makes sense to take a swing like that on Bill Belichick and say, you know what? At the very least, he's going to bring us some notoriety. He's probably going to be able to recruit some players. And if it doesn't work out, he's going to retire in a few years anyway. It's not a big deal. I got it for UNC football. That brand in general is not known for being great. So, like, taking a big swing makes sense. North Carolina basketball, this feels like one that they can't mess up. Like, Hubert Davis got them to the national championship game. And since then, it's been meh at best for North Carolina. This felt like a hire they could not mess up. And maybe Michael Malone will be great, but it's just such a strange out-of-the-box move that I feel like North Carolina basketball is better than, right? Like, you are North Carolina basketball. Shouldn't you be able to go out and get whoever you really want? And we had the conversation yesterday about the way things have changed and I think we had this on Friday with Connor too, of like the resources between North Carolina and the rest of the Power Four. There's just not as big of a gap anymore. And people are fine staying where they are and not adding the expectations of, oh, I'm the North Carolina head coach. I have to win a national championship. And I think that left North Carolina with like, all right, well, we asked Todd Golden. We asked Dusty May. We asked Tommy Lloyd. We even asked Mark Byington. All of them decided to stay with their current schools. Where do we go now? And it's crazy that a brand like North Carolina basketball is kind of left with that realization of like, where do we go now? You're North Carolina basketball. You should be able to get whoever you want.
Yeah, and emphasis on the brand aspect of all this, because looking at the NBA as a whole and certain, I guess, markets, you wonder if Denver was one of those markets that was really bringing in TV revenue.
Yeah.
Or was bringing in more just ticket sales. Because if you're bringing a guy like Michael Malone, and he's a guy that brings in those ticket sales, obviously so coming from the NBA, being an NBA champion as a coach, that's going to drive in the viewership. That's going to drive in the ticket sales. And also, too, if ACC and ACC Network has their deal with ESPN, that's going to drive in more eyeballs for them. It's easier access. So maybe that's a different. They're approaching this in a more of a business-like standpoint than maybe a basketball standpoint, which is unfortunate, but that's just how I look at it from the business side of it.
I have tried to compare this opening to Alabama football a little bit. It's different because Alabama football, you were following Nick Saban. You're not exactly following Hubert Davis here. Yeah. Like, you have that buffer. And I thought that was why a lot of people were turning down the Alabama job. Like Dan Lanning decided to stay where he was. And we saw some other coaches say, you know what, I'm good. And Kalen DeBoer wasn't a bad hire. He just coached the national championship game, but it wasn't exactly the hire you expected Alabama football to make. And I thought that was because people were scared of being Saban's successor. Like, you didn't want to be the guy that follows the guy. But I do wonder if it's the same thing here with North Carolina of, if you take that job, the bar isn't just to be in the conversation. You have to be the conversation. You have to be a national championship contender every year. And for a lot of these coaches, it's like, I'm comfortable where I'm at. I don't need to go there. And if I don't live up, like Kalen DeBoer's on the hot seat for going 9-3 in back-to-back seasons, or 10-2 last year. Like, I don't think coaches want to go to these big brand schools because they know, if I struggle for 2 years, I'm fired and I've got to go somewhere else with that stain on my resume. Why not stay here where I can still compete for national championships and I don't feel like I've got the weight of the world on my back with the reputation of Alabama football or North Carolina basketball?
That's why, and I bring football into this because you mentioned the Kalen DeBoer, but that's why the Curt Cignetti story is so fascinating to just anybody out there, because he comes from James Madison University, one of the, I'd say, more powerful lower end schools of FCS football, jumping to FBS. But as they jump to FBS, he goes to Indiana. Indiana, not a football school per se, but does what you were talking about with Kim Caldwell and grabs players that will fit his system.
Yeah.
And then ends up winning the national championship. Nobody in a million years would have thought that would have ever happened. So looking at it from that perspective, I don't know if this is the direction that UNC is trying to go. And because, well, obviously, so coming from pro to going to college, but just the direction, it just doesn't seem genuine.
I would have preferred, if I was North Carolina, to dip down a level. Go get an up-and-coming mid-major coach who you feel like has room to grow rather than trying to transform Michael Malone into a college coach. That's just me. Maybe it works out, but I thought it was a strange hire, to say the least. 8955 on the text line says, if Caleb Wilson had stayed healthy, we wouldn't be having this conversation, from a diehard Tar Heel. And I 100% agree, which Hubert Davis did not live up to expectations at North Carolina. I think everybody can say that. But also, to fire him because his best player got hurt and you lost in overtime in the first round of the tournament, like, I thought it was a little bit rash. And you may look back and say the grass isn't always greener. When you fire a guy like Hubert Davis, it doesn't always get better. I mean, Tennessee women's basketball, similar thing. Kelly Harper was consistently getting that program to Sweet 16s. That wasn't good enough. Now look where you are 2 years later. Like, I think that's a way you could put it.
Yeah. And another thing to bring into the Michael Malone situation at UNC, he was been an assistant his entire career, just about, even from when he was in college with Providence and Oakland, a team that made some, buzz in previous March Madness tournaments. But then you go and make the jump to NBA, you're an assistant all the way through till 2013.
Yep.
You take over the Sacramento Kings for a season and then jump to Denver. And like you mentioned earlier with Nikola Jokic, you have players that are in their prime that are really good that can carry you.
Right.
So I don't know how much of that really falls on the coaching rather than just the raw talent of the player.
Yeah, that is funny. Michael Malone, not a stranger to college basketball,
Yeah.
but 25 years since the last time he was a coach at the collegiate level, an assistant at Manhattan. Back in 2001. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And let's give something away here. We've got 4 tickets to the Monster Energy SMX World Championship races at Nissan Stadium on Saturday, April 11th. Be caller number 3 at 615-737-1025. You win a 4-pack of tickets. Again, that is this Saturday, the Monster SMX World Championship races at Nissan Stadium. Caller number 3 at 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up. 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Few more segments on this Tuesday. Been a fun show today. Lots going on in the sports world. We haven't even gotten into that. It's Masters Week. I can't wait. The only person that I know for a fact at this station is more fired up than me is Robbie Stanley.
And was yelling.
I mean, he is just juiced up for the Masters, and I don't blame him. The Masters is one of the best weekends of the year, and I can't wait. Starts on Thursday. I want to get Corey's thoughts on the Masters tomorrow because I just don't know if that's his thing. We'll figure it out tomorrow. But I'm excited. It's the best golf tournament in the world. A tradition unlike any other at Augusta. And Masters Week has already started, opening round on Thursday. We'll talk more about it throughout the week. But continuing on the college basketball coaching carousel, Michael Malone is now the new head coach at North Carolina. I think the most important part of this is it doesn't start your domino effect around the rest of college basketball, because that's what happened with football this year. Is you had a couple of really key firings. Florida, Auburn, Penn State all came open in the season, and you saw the trickle down of that. All right, Auburn takes Alex Golish from USF. Now USF has to go take blanking on the guy's name from Ohio State. Brian Hartline is now their head coach at USF. It's like you start to see all of the dominoes fall. I think this is really important because North Carolina is one of those jobs that's at the top of the mountain. And when that one opens, they would hire somebody from the next tier down, and it would trickle down all the way through. I think it's really intriguing that it stops there. Michael Malone was unemployed. Like, he was not a head coach anywhere else. So you don't see a Mark Byington being threatened to be poached by somebody else. You don't see some of these young up-and-coming coaches at these mid-major schools that we've seen really being threatened to go elsewhere, which makes it a little less intriguing for us, but I think it does lead to more stability as we enter the offseason.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just hope for the sake of college basketball as a whole that this does work out, because there are times when the average Joe is just watching college basketball and says, "Where's UNC?" And they're not they're still a blue blood per se when it comes to brand bias, but like from a product perspective, they're nowhere to be in the conversation. So for that sake, I hope it works out.
Yeah, I want to see North Carolina basketball over the last few years because, of course, they made the national championship game, and they were up big in that game against Kansas, I want to say, right? Like, maybe up by like 15-20 in that game, and then ended up losing. And then, of course, they just haven't been that type of team since. Let's look through. Under Hubert Davis, this team, they just got into the tournament last year. That was the year they had one quad one win last year, which is just crazy for a North Carolina team. But Hubert Davis, they lost that team that had Caleb Love and Armando Bacot and Leaky Black, and I'm blanking on the other guard that they had. Anyway, RJ Davis. And that team was loaded, and that's kind of what he built that team around, right? The Bacot felt like he was there for a decade, and they were always competitive. But again, the expectations at North Carolina are just ridiculous. And Michael Malone, the expectation for him isn't going to be to come in and be a 6 seed in the tournament next year. It's going to be to get elite talent in the transfer portal this year and be a team that can go to the Final Four this year. We just saw it with Michigan. Like, Michigan 2 years ago was horrible, and Dusty May comes in from FIU. 2 years later, they're winning a national championship. That's the timeline in college sports these days.
It is, unfortunately. And now, kind of not trying to go away from UNC, but at the same time, are we ever going to see a program that just recruits from out to in, and then you're just going to be developing young talent? Is that ever going to come back to what it used to be?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Like, as Coach Calipari has said, like, no one wants to recruit high schoolers anymore. They're going to let the mid-majors recruit the high schoolers, unless it's like the one and done. Like, there's always going to be a place for your Darius Acuffs and your Nate Amens, the guys who can come in, be one and dones, and go to the NBA. But as far as the 3- and 4-star recruits, why would a North Carolina or a Michigan or a UConn recruit them out of high school when they can let them go to Providence or Wake Forest? they'll get developed there for 2 years, and then you can get them in the transfer portal
That's fair.
and come in and reap the benefits of it. I finally was able to pull up the Hubert Davis era. So Hubert Davis was an 8 seed the year he went to the national championship back in 2022, missed the turn in the last 2 years. So it wasn't good for Hubert Davis, but I just look at it and say, is Mike Malone going to come in and immediately be an upgrade? Returning to college, like he's never been a college basketball head coach before. Is this a guy that you look at and say, all right, well, Hubert was a disappointment, but this guy can take us to the next level? I just don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. And looking at the, I guess, beginning of the Hubert Davis era at UNC, you can kind of get the gist of when they went to the national championship, the final, that was a Roy Williams team. Like, can we all agree on that?
Right. Yeah, that was it was his players. Yeah.
So when you go from that and you start to see a slow decline a little bit, I think it was the right move when you look at UNC from a program perspective. But as for a guy like Michael Malone, it is a new era of basketball, like we're just talking about. I did ask the question, and I'm in the same sentiment. We probably won't see the recruits from freshmen and on, but we're in this NIL era where you have to be competing with the best of the best, and it solely comes down to a sales pitch. I wonder if he is a good recruiter per se, because yes, money does talk, but it's also about the system. If your system doesn't fit the player, then how are you supposed to get your boosters to jump on that train?
Yeah, it's kind of the opposite of the Tony Vitello situation. Tony Vitello's biggest advantage, I thought, was his ability to recruit. He got elite players into that program. He can't do that at the MLB level anymore, and we'll see if it works out there. With Mike Malone, he didn't have to recruit. Like, you have the draft. Yeah, there's some recruiting in free agency, I guess I would say in free agency, it's mostly about money. In the transfer portal, maybe it's mostly about money too. And money does talk. If North Carolina is going to give him a huge budget in the transfer portal, I'm sure he'll be able to build a pretty good team. It's just the difference of dealing with college age kids versus an NBA roster where those guys are professionals. It'll be interesting for sure. And North Carolina going out of the box for their hire after Hubert Davis, Michael Malone coming over from the NBA. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We got a couple more segments with you and a big one tonight for Nashville SC. And as always, when we have Nick Frazier in and there's a big game for the boys in gold, we got to get into it. Leg number 1 of their quarterfinal match with Club America in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. We will get into that and also the outlook for Nashville SC as they have returned from their international break. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Next man up. 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, final half hour on your Tuesday morning. Chasing Big Joe coming up at noon. Tomorrow on the show, Corey Curtis with us. Lots to get into with Corey. Of course, the Preds back on the ice tonight in Anaheim, back-to-back against the Ducks, trying to stay in the playoff race. And, of course, the Titans getting closer to the draft. But a big game tonight right here at Geodis Park. Nashville SC Club America, first leg of their quarterfinal match in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. And Dr. Crane, the boys in gold returned from their international break. Disappointing result over the weekend. 1-0 loss against Chicago up there at Soldier Field. But this is where the closer you get to the trophy, the bigger these games get. And I'm sure the focus is on this game tonight against Club America here at home.
Yeah, there's definitely some magnitude involved with this game tonight. There's some, I wouldn't say bad history with Club America, but everybody remembers that 2022 push with the Leagues Cup and how things ended in the penalty kicks and the goalkeeper was off his line, so forth. So I hopefully expect that same energy in tonight's match between the two. But yeah, Nashville SC coming off their first loss of MLS play this season in the Windy City. It was a weird game overall because Nashville conceded 17 seconds into the match. It was the 10th fastest goal in MLS history. And it just felt like everything was working well for them. They just couldn't finish in the final third.
Yeah.
When you're near the top of the 18, normally Nashville likes to funnel the ball in between, the defenders like centrally and then dish it out wide and create more space to stretch out that back line. And Nashville's able to, send one into the box where Sam Surge can put a head on it or Hane can put a foot on it, whatever it may be. There just wasn't that cleanliness when it came to perfecting that last touch in the final third. So that was a big issue there. Originally, just at the start of the match, when it came to that goal, it seemed like Jason Palacios and Maxwell Walitzi, they were in a different mindset of, we're like, BJ loves to go high press to start games.
Yeah.
Which is great. But when it comes to, a team that's showing high press immediately, you're having to resort back to try to, defend quicker. And I just think the man marking was a little bit off, caught them off their guard. And you could definitely say the goalkeeper and Brian Schwacke, he's still a great goalkeeper. Let's put it that way. The goal is a goal. Unfortunate what the result was, but I just think Nashville was kind of caught sleeping a little bit in the first half. And I know Joey in Bellevue has mentioned before this past Saturday when I was on with Connor, he was asking, is there going to be any issues with Nashville playing at Chicago? And I simply said in confidence, I don't think that this team will struggle that much. I think the first half they'll struggle, but the second half, I don't think so. And I remember after the game, I asked BJ Callahan in the press conference, did you think there were enough opportunities on the field where your team, would have at least got 1 point out of this entire match? And he said, yeah, there were some opportunities, but yet there's still some times where you need to be more cleaner in the attacking third. So that's kind of where that point comes into factor. But as for tonight, I do see Nashville kind of just waking up and playing to the occasion. Sure, you're going to get a scrappy game, which is fine, but this is the quarterfinals. You are going to be playing for some more hardware in the near future. If that is the case, you go past this first leg and second leg. The key factor into tonight's match for Nashville is they have to start out hot. They have to at least get a goal, I would say, in the first half. Not trying to put too many deadlines on this game in general, but if they can get a goal in the first half, that would ease the pressure a little bit. If you can just hold them to a shutout, that's what's really important, because away goals.
Right. I was about to say.
Yeah, I think it's the only tournament right now in all of the world that still uses the away goal factor into all this. So if they can at least hold them to a shutout or just a 1-0 draw, even a 0-0 draw, I'm okay with that. That'd be good for Nashville. And again, just because they lost in MLS play this past weekend, they're still at the top of the Eastern Conference with 13 points. They have, a few teams right behind them in Charlotte FC, Inter Miami, New York City FC with 11. But again, as long as you take care of business tonight, you have about 3 or 4 days off. You can get ready for Saturday and then go about your day. So overall, this team, it has its hiccups at moments, but I don't see them, spiraling into a bad losing streak.
Yeah, and I think having that MLS game coming out of the international break had to have been nice, where obviously the MLS games matter, but it's a long season. You can afford a loss there. you'd rather have that wake-up call on Saturday and be able to come out tonight and be ready to go in this game where, again, you're in the quarterfinals. Like, you're getting closer to playing for some hardware. I think that wake-up call on Saturday could be helpful tonight.
Yeah, and there were some bright spots in that game in Chicago this past Saturday, and one being Matthew Corcoran. I think that's somebody that a lot of Nashville SC fans kind of anticipate him being a key role player in that midfield, and he was still finding key passes, from that back half of their defensive side of the field, where he was still finding those long balls where he could advance play. You're still finding those tiki-taka small passes. I thought him and Eddie Taxat did a pretty decent job for the most part in the midfield. Would have liked to have seen Patrick Yazbek, but again, a guy coming off international duty, flying halfway across the world to Australia, then flying back to Nashville. I think that definitely played a factor into the starting 11. But tonight, Nashville SC fans and also just the casual soccer fans, I would anticipate all hands on deck for a starting 11, and that being Brian Schwake in goal, Palacios and Wolitzy at the center backs. I would assume, this would be my guess, you would have Daniel Lovitz at left back. If not, go Reed Baker Whiting. Reed Baker Whiting's made a few cameos in the CONCACAF Champions Cup tournament. Andy Nahar at right back. This is where I think we're going to start seeing that Patrick Yazbek being eased back into the starting lineup.
Yeah.
You have Yazbek in and also Tagseth in the midfield. Now, that could be up for debate with, if there's an injury or a knock or something before the game begins. But I would say those two would be in the midfield. And then as your attacking midfielders, you would have Espinoza on one side, and I'd say Warren Madrigal on the other.
Yeah.
Madrigal's been pretty good on the left side. You have Espinoza on the right, and then obviously Hani and Sam up top as they alternate.
Yeah, I think you've got to, when you get this deep in the tournament, I think you've got to go all in for it, right?
Yeah.
Like in the opening round, I think it makes sense to maybe rest some of your guys. You don't need to have everybody getting those extra wear on their tires early on in the MLS season. But when you get this deep, and you've already beaten Miami, who is the favorite to win it, I think you've got to go for it. And you mentioned tonight that this one is important because defending your home turf matters in this tournament. If you're able to take control in this game, it makes things a lot easier next week when you go out and play on the road. Next Tuesday, 10:30 p.m. kickoff
late
in that game.
Late. I will not be traveling to Mexico. So
You will not.
I will not be traveling. But 10:30 start. It's a late one. Holy cow. I don't know if I'll be up for the press conferences, but we'll see.
That is crazy. 10:30 Central Time.
Mm-hmm.
So that I would make the assumption like they're out west coast of Mexico.
Yeah, near that area.
I was going to say, I don't really know where Club America is based.
Yeah, it's near like the western area of Mexico.
Is it on like Baja?
I believe so. I have to double check on the map, but they are definitely.
I'm curious now. It's in Mexico City.
Oh,
is what it says.
So, that's where they're playing at the new stadium. Excuse me. They're playing at the new stadium that's being held for the World Cup.
Man, so 10:30
well, also
is late.
Yeah, but a lot of those Liga MX games, they tend to go late as well.
Interesting.
So maybe that's just a local time thing. I don't know, but maybe there's something with the air quality. I don't know.
That's always an issue, right? And the elevation, that's always a factor too.
I don't know if that plays a factor at 10:30 at night, but it's just crazy. It's crazy.
Going to be a fun one tonight over at Geodis Park. It is a 7:00 kickoff tonight, so you should have plenty of time with the 9:00 puck drop for the Preds. You can watch Nashville SC at 7, watch the Preds at 9. It's a full Nashville night in the sports world. Big ones for both.
Indeed. And one more factor before we go to break.
Yeah.
When it comes to Nashville tonight, attacking wise, we haven't really seen much of, the Warren Madrigals as of late because they've had Alex Moyle playing and Ahmed Kasim kind of starting. It just does 1-2 punches. He's been pretty good off the bench, but overall, if you're going to start a guy in Warren Madrigal and Christian Espinoza tonight, you're going to at least need 2 goals out of that. Just that quadrant of 4 players, the Sam Surridge, the Hani Mukhtars, the Warren Madrigals, and Christian Espinoza. If you can at least create 2 quality chances to score, this team should take care of business in the return leg.
They've been the goal scorers so far this season for Nashville SC. The boys in gold trying to get a leg up in leg 1 of this CONCACAF Champions Cup quarterfinal match against Club America. Again, 7:00 kick tonight over at Geodis Park. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you have any final thoughts on this Tuesday, we will wrap up the show coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Final segment on this Tuesday. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, Chasing Big Joe, getting ready to take over at the top of the hour. Been a fun show today. We've had, I mean, it's one of the best times on the sports calendar. Football season, I think, always takes the cake just when you got the NFL and college football going together. But April's a great month. Just wrapped up March Madness last night. You've got the Masters this week. You've got the draft coming up in 2 weeks. We've got hockey coming down towards the end of the season. Baseball's underway. It's tough to beat. It's up there as one of the best months on the sports calendar.
I mean, yeah, and then you also include the National Rugby League. I mean,
right? How could I forget?
You can't forget about your guys, your Manly Sea Eagles.
The Manly Sea, yeah. How is the darts world looking?
Luke Littler's still dominating the darts world, but your Manly Sea Eagles just fired their head coach 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
so
man,
trying to turn it around.
Can't believe I hadn't heard of this.
It's all good. You're not hearing much about it.
Shoot, I forgot to include that in my update.
I know. Right. You got to redo it. Anyway, it is Masters Week, which I wouldn't say the Masters is my favorite sporting event of the year. March Madness is up there, and there's plenty of great ones. But it's in the conversation, the history behind it, the tradition. The players care so much about winning this tournament and getting the green jacket. And this year is you look at it, it's wide open. Like Scotty's the favorite, as he probably is every time he steps onto a golf course, even though he hasn't been playing his best golf over the last 6 months to a year. But him, Rahm, DeChambeau, Rory trying to defend his title. Tommy Fleetwood's been playing much better since he finally got that first win in the Tour Championship last year. So I'm excited. I think it's going to be a really fun week at Augusta. And it's the first one since 1994 without Tiger or Phil in the field.
It's a little sad.
It is. It's a little sad, but also it's nice that you don't have, because they do take a lot of the attention away. And obviously we wish that Tiger was in a better place where he could play in this tournament, but everybody's eyes go to Tiger Woods or Lefty. I like that it's you get to focus on the guys who are actually playing the best golf in the world right now this weekend at Augusta.
Yeah, and I heard Gentry earlier talking about some names out there that to kind of watch for as wild cards. He mentioned Max Homa. There's a name out there that I kind of am on the fringe about, but it's either Hideki Matsuyama or the one and only Sung J M.
Yeah. Hideki's won before. He won what, like 4 years ago?
Yeah,
somewhere around there. You know who I kind of like? The young guy. He's played well there. I think he's only played there twice now. Ludwig Oberg.
Yeah.
I think he's not an underdog. Like I'd say he's in the top 10 in terms of favorites for this weekend, but he's a guy who always seems to be in the conversation for these majors. I wouldn't be shocked if maybe he is in that final pairing on Sunday.
I wonder about the whole Akshay Bhatia with the broomstick putter. I don't know if you're familiar with the
anchoring into the chest. Yeah, you're not allowed to do that anymore.
Can we just get rid of that? Just get rid of the whole broomstick putter thing.
So you think no long putters in general?
No, I don't think you should be allowed to use broomstick putters in golf, period. I think that is a cheating system, because if you look like on it in certain camera angles, his hand is definitely on the edge or like on the cover up of the putter. But when he's doing that, he's still anchoring it to his chest. So again, the rule is you can't anchor the top of the club to your chest, but he's doing it with his hand.
Was it Adam Scott who was notorious for it back in the day? It was one of the South African guys that he anchored it to his chest, and he was one of the big reasons why they said you can't do that anymore. I'm kind of with you though. I think even the playing field, no long putters.
Yeah, I mean, what's the point of that? Because we saw a prime example during TGL. If you watched any of that, Akshay Bhatia was one of those guys that played for Tigers team.
Yeah, he was on Jupiter. Yeah,
he would basically broomstick that bad boy all the way to the very end of the green. I'm like, dude, that's like a 25-foot putt, and you're sinking that with ease. That's cheating. Like, can we just go back to the regular grip it and go?
I agree, and I think there's enough developments with these putters and golf clubs in general. Like, these guys are getting the most advantages you could possibly get from what we've seen in the past in golf. I think you have to draw the line somewhere, and where there's that significant of a difference between the equipment that these guys are using, I agree with you. I think it's time to get rid of it.
Yeah, because the weight distribution of the club's different. You have a double grip. Like there is so much more factoring into that than just a regular like lab putter. Like you're just your long face putter. There's a lot more difference in that. So that's kind of how I feel about it. Other people in the tournament, players in the tournament, I'm kind of sold on the Scotty Scheffler train just a tad bit. I know he's the big favorite, but last time he won was Bennett, his 2-year-old now.
Yeah,
was born, just had their second child in Remy. So that something might be in the cards.
I was going to ask, call your shot. Who's your winner? Are you going with Scotty?
I'm going to go with Tommy Fleetwood.
Okay, you're going with Tommy.
Yeah.
I can't shake Tommy Fleetwood too. I'm not picking him as my winner. I'll come up with a final definitive answer tomorrow, but I do like Tommy Fleetwood. There's something about the flowing locks, the story of him just not being able to get over the hump. How cool would it be to finally do it, not only in any tournament, but in the Tour Championship? Big payday there, and then you turn around and win the Masters the next spring.
Yeah, I'd like to see Justin Rose go at it a little bit.
Yeah,
that's another golfer. And again, those two are teammates on the LAGC team on TGO.
Yeah, and in the Ryder Cup this past
season. In the Ryder
Cup
as well. So I don't know. Maybe there's something there about that, but I like Tommy Fleetwood. See what he does.
It's going to be a really fun week at Augusta. It's always the best. Eventually, hopefully, win the lottery and get tickets down there. But for another year, I'll be watching from my couch. But going to be great. Fun week of sports. Tonight again, Preds and Ducks coming up 9 o'clock puck drop out in Anaheim. It's a back-to-back. Looks like Big Juice is going to be in the net. Nothing confirmed there, I don't think, because, they're on the West Coast. I don't think morning skate has happened quite yet. But expecting on and in net, this feels like a must-win. At the very least, I feel like they need to get a point out of tonight's game.
Yeah, no, they have to win this bad boy in regulation. I can't see them collecting a point in overtime. You got to get a win, because if you want to get your other 2 1-point games out of the way, that's Utah and then Minnesota. Those are 2 of the toughest teams in the rest of the schedule.
Yeah, do they play Anaheim again the last game of the season too? Mm-hmm. So you're playing the Ducks twice. You got Utah, Minnesota, San Jose. I would agree. Anaheim, they're good. I mean, they're winning their division for a reason, but you've got to get your points where you can. So big one tonight, 9 o'clock puck drop, 8 o'clock pregame. Dr. Crane, always great having you in.
Thanks for having me.
We will be back tomorrow. Corey Curtis with us at 9 a.m., but Chase and Big Joe are coming up next. You're listening to 102.5 The Game.